Pussy Gloves here, and this is the 31st Kontakt from the Ground Up tutorial series. And today we're going to be talking about the chorus effect. So I have a saxophone loaded up here. Let me make sure there you go. I'm in control of it. And this is just in the Kontakt factory. Go to the band folder, then the horns folder, and then you get to the saxophone. And that is really cool and great and all. So what I have done is I've gone to my modules, grabbed the chorus effect, and simply dropped it on, and I've bypassed it so you can hear what it sounds like without it. And they've actually got some pretty good descriptions. Well, they better be good over here. And we're going to talk about what exactly is going on. Now, we have not talked about signal flow because I feel like it's important to know what the modules do, because then you'll have a desire to use the signal flow. So let's talk about this. So we have chorus. And what the chorus does is it clones your audio signal. It's actually a pretty good representation right here. You have one audio signal and then you have another audio signal. And what the depth is so you hit a note, it'll clone that note and it will send that copy differently through your speakers, so it can do panning differently. And it will also slightly change the pitch. So in a choir, everyone's singing. Actually, I have a good FL Studios. If you go watch the Fruity Chorus video, it's pretty similar. But in a choir, everyone's singing, but they're all singing slightly different notes. And as a result, you get that kind of lush choir sound because they're close to the same note, but they're not quite the same note. And the more overtones you have in a note, which is, again, go watch the DSP series if you don't know about this, the better your chorus will sound. At least the more lush, the more typically associated with the pad sound you get. So here we have our chorus effect. It only makes one clone, and this depth says how far the clone of our audio is allowed to move away in pitch. So if we turn our chorus on, we play a note, we can already hear a difference. But if we move it up to modulate a whole semitone away, so 100 cents away from our chorus, it'll modulate between in tune with our note to out of tune with our note, like a whole half step out of tune. And so that is what depth controls. Now speed controls how fast this process takes place. So right now we have it set at a hertz value. So it'll oscillate 0.85 times a second. So less than one time a second. We can take it down. And we can make it very subtle like that. Or you could take it up to 8 times a second, which is really fast. Now you may want to sync it up with your DAW for your speed, and you can actually just click the hertz value and you can select a half note, quarter note, triplet. This does require some knowledge. They even have a 256th note. So this does require some knowledge of music theory, and I have a tutorial series on that. If you go check out my playlists, I have stuff to explain most of these terms. And so that's what speed does. So it controls how quickly this depth takes place. So yes. And this last one is phase. So the thing about a chorus is it's being controlled by a separate LFO. So we're splitting our audio, and there's an LFO going at a particular speed that tells this audio how to behave. So it says go between this pitch and this pitch at this rate, right? Well, as a result, there's also stereo panning involved, and so it'll come out your left and right differently. And this phase controls this. I think I cover this in the DSP 4 essential knowledge. But phase is, how a waveform starts. So if I were to open up a massive, and I'll show it to you real quick in this series, just for the sake of it, LFO. So here's a sine wave, okay? And if we were to change the phase, and here's another sine wave, and if we were to change the phase, now it starts here. So while this sine wave is starting here at a different value, this sine wave is starting at the maximum. And we could change this sine wave to start at the minimum and the maximum, and so on and so forth. And we can get all the variations in between. And so that is what this phase controls, where that other waveform starts. And so one waveform will always start at its regular starting position, never moves, but it will change this one relative to it. What this will do is, if this one were to represent detuning, as we were talking about, so there'd be more of these in a second than these, but it would also represent our panning. So if we had it set up like this, while one signal is coming out the left speaker, the other one will be coming out the right. And so as a result, the phase can control the stereo image of your chorus effect. So if you were to turn the phase, right now the phase is not on, and I believe it's already being stereo routed, so we'll already get a bit of that. But if we turn it all the way on, you'll hear it very prevalent. And I'll even turn the speed up to make it kind of obvious. So you can kind of hear it move out to the edges of your stereo field because the signals are going in separate things. So that is what the chorus effect does. Now you do have some presets if you so desire. And you can save your presets if for whatever reason you really like yours. So you just hit save preset and it'll put it in your user folder. You also can control the wet to dry ratio. So if you want like a lot more, like no dry signal, just the affected signal, or maybe you don't want any of the signal. I don't know why you do that, but then it's just the original signal. But you could control it using these. And if you use this as a send effect, so if you were to put it down here, so if you drop it down here, one more control shows up. It's the return control. And if you're not familiar with send effects, you essentially send your audio through, and then the return controls the effect amount. So we're going to we'll talk about this later when we get into signal flow, but this is the general idea of what the chorus does. Really neat tool, especially for pad sounds or lush sounds. You could even just go crazy and see what kind of madness you can whip up with a saxophone, for example. This may help with mixing. Great tool for vocals if you want to thicken up vocals, but you might not want to modulate the depth by that much. But it's a really cool tool, especially if you get 2 or 3. Some chorus effects allow you to change the amount of voices that happen, so you could have like 9 clones going on, but this one's just 2. And yes, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. Like, comment, and subscribe because you know that you want to. And have a blessed day. Oh.